Dragon's Dogma 2 has had several glaring issues undercutting its launch, but one of the less controversial but equally annoying issues is the constant cavalcade of dialogue vomited onto the player, which has driven me personally to madness. But something struck me as odd about this constant chattering. NPC voice lines are commonly labelled as insufferable because of how frequently lines are repeated. But Dragon's Dogma 2 boasts an impressive variety of comments that range across all types of actions that the player makes. I wouldn't say that my pawns keep spouting off the same 3 lines repeatedly, but they undeniably won't shut up. So then, what is it about the voice lines that bother people? I think I have a few answers, so let's run through them. Firstly, I think there's a psychological angle to not liking the pawns. The game goes out of its way to make sure that the player knows the pawns are second-class citizens, and quite literally only exist to serve them. That builds up a sense of superiority over them, so that the player may fall in love with their own creations, but they won't respect them, because these aren't characters we can attach ourselves to. They're puppets with no ambition or goal. Well, that's not true. Their goal is to serve the Arisen in every conceivable task. They were designed to be the perfect servants. So for them all to share such a glaring imperfection as constant babble can be infuriating, because it goes against their philosophy of making us happy. I grew sick of my pawns because they weren't interesting, and their character trope is one I find particularly grating. What I mean by that is, since these pawns are mindless goons, I don't really care about them. Hell, the game requires you to constantly sacrifice them and trade them in for stronger servants. The game is telling you that they are disposable and not worth getting attached to. And with their one personality trait being chatty slave, you have effectively created a game where every party member is the annoying fan who will follow you in oblivion. It's just the earnestness and how they never question your leadership, making them have no goal of their own, which feels so grating. If your only purpose is to fight for me, then don't run your mouth every 5 seconds about what I'm doing. I suppose it speaks to the inner tyrant scumbag we all have inside us, but when people we perceive, or in this case are, outright told are lesser than us keep annoying us, it makes us want to abuse our authority over them. At least that's the only reason I can imagine why bosses and teachers use their positions of power so cruelly. But what do lessers like me know about any of that? But even if you don't have that inner tyrant whispering in your head, there is another annoyance with the pawn's dialogue: the disconnect in their language. Dragon's Dogma 2 is written almost entirely in Shakespearean dialect, which creates a middle ground between the authentic dialect of Old English and the modern audience's understanding of what the characters are saying. But this creates a disconnect between the audience and the characters. It's why modern period movies avoid this type of writing, and I attribute it to why I don't enjoy many films made before the 1960s. The dialogue of the characters sounds so foreign that I can't connect with what they're saying on an emotional level. This type of speaking can also be considered pretentious. Be honest, the only reason you'd quote Shakespeare outside of a performance is to sound arrogant. People don't like it when something makes them feel dumb, and that's how I feel when I grit my teeth against a golem and suddenly my pawn goes, "Mayhaps this stratagem lacks ingenuity. I believe a new tactic would serve us satisfactorily. Stop backseating me in your smarmy accent and get back to healing me, you glorified Pikmin." My theory is that Capcom wants us to avoid liking our pawns, as the whole system seems to be designed around throwing them back into the ether and swapping them out for fancier models. But they found that players were getting too attached to their odd avatars that they'd snapped up along the way, and were getting creamed in the game because they refused to abandon their level 5 Daenerys Targaryen. So Capcom made them annoying as possible from a dialogue perspective, because from a gameplay point of view, they can just carry you the whole way to victory while you chill out in the back. So by creating a vocal disconnect between master and servant, while also having said servant incessantly babble on about innocuous observations, I took glee in shunting my pawns off to some poor unfortunate soul, dreary in the knowledge that their replacements likely came from the same place. Dragon's Dogma 2 is not my sort of game. It's much too rough around the edges for me to fully enjoy it, and believe me, pawn dialogue is one of the lesser issues with the game. It's just one I don't think will get many people too riled up, though I've misjudged fan appreciation before. Either way, I sincerely lament the fact that one of my little helpers is here to stay forever, and I will despise it till the day I die, and find the resolve to start this game from the beginning. If you want some more positive coverage of the game, check out this video about how nighttime is spectacular,